is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm going to be doing an interesting topic, which is ranking all of the unlocked games. So, years ago, I did a run-through when these unlock exit games were actually coming out. And I covered one of the first three. And since then, there have been 7 total boxes, each with 3 unlock games in them, and I have continued and played all of them because they are so much fun. Well, not all of them. At this point in time, there are 21 total unlock games, not including the Star Wars one that they've done. I have not actually played those. And I figured, well, you know, I did a ranking for the Marvel Champions. Let's go ahead and just do a ranking for the unlock games, and let you know what my least favorite to my favorite one is and why. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with my number 21, my least favorite, The Island of Dr. Gorse. This one is in the very first box set, which was called Escape Adventures, and it was the hardest one in the entire set, they have a challenge rating of 3. Typically, all of them have a easy, medium, and hard one. And this is the hardest one out of the 3. Now, it had been a very long time since I even played those. So what I did before ranking these was I actually went out and bought like 3 of the box sets of the first 3 that came out, because I was like, I don't really remember those. Maybe since I've done a lot more, maybe I can come out and do these, and then I can accurately rank them. Well, the problem with The Island of Dr. Gorse is it misleads you. In that one, and I'll try and be as spoiler-free as possible because I don't want to ruin any of the puzzles or anything, but since this one, I guess, minor spoiler, but it's right off the bat, and what this one does is at the very beginning, it splits up the team. So, first of all, typically, you play this game, I mean, you can play with 4, but I like to play this with a max of 2 because there's not enough going on. There's never really a whole lot of cards that everyone can kind of look at stuff, everyone wants to touch, there's only ever one app, so it's like, 2, it just feels right. That's at least one other person to bounce ideas off of, to, work together, because all of these are cooperative. Well, the problem with The Island of Dr. Gorse is that it splits up the party, so one guy gets one deck of cards, and the other guy gets another deck of cards, and you cannot communicate, you actually really can't show each other your cards, until later on in the unlock game, in the game, where eventually that can happen. But I just have a big problem with, in a cooperative puzzle solving game, it immediately splits you up. And if someone is in the group, and sometimes they can be like, oh, hey, what about this idea, but they're not really good at puzzle solving, then they're just kind of going to not have a good time. They're not going to understand, or do a good job doing puzzles, because they're like, well, I work really good with other people. Like, if I can help, if we can work together, then I can see the puzzles, or maybe throw in some ideas. You can't do that. And that just is a very hard disconnect. And I'll say this, the first couple unlock games are very by the book. Like, hey, this is an escape room, so it's puzzles, it's numbers, it's combinations. That's theme, not really, and that's kind of what this feels too. So it's not even really a good theme. You're just kind of on a stranded island, and then you're split up. So I actually very much despise this one. So it's my least favorite, and I do have a ranking for all of these, and this one is a 2 out of 10. In the terms of unlock games, not in the grand scope of board games, but compared to all these other unlock games, it's my least favorite out of 2. My number 20 is one that came out a little later. It was in the, I didn't write down, it was in the Exotic Adventures box set, and it was the medium difficulty one, and it is Scheherazade's Last Tale. This is set in the Arabian Nights world. You are essentially trying to find the last story that Scheherazade is supposed to tell, the Sultan. Otherwise she'll die or something. The problem with this one is, one, it is incredibly boring. Like, there's really, in terms of what you do, you fly from location to location on a magic carpet, and that's a majority of it. There is one puzzle in particular where it's a game on your phone, and I will say this one did kind of they started using the app a little bit more instead of just, hey, a glorified timer with a code that you put in. So there is a game on the phone, but the problem with the game is it doesn't necessarily explain the rules to you. So the way you solve it isn't something that anyone would ever actually think of. At least I didn't think of it like that. I kept trying to play the game how the riddle gave it to me, and that's not what you would think to actually, the reasoning for how to solving the puzzle. Then there's a portion at some point in the unlock game where you... I really don't want to spoil it, but essentially a mechanic is not explained because they have a tutorial in every box, but the tutorial never changes, so they never explain new mechanics that can come in to where you would be like, oh, maybe this is where we use the new mechanic. Nope, you just have to hope that you solve it in some weird way. And I remember that particular puzzle, we were so frustrated that we played it with 3. One of the girls that we were playing with, she just went, I don't know, and then just did something, and then it fucking worked. And we were like, that is dumb. And the final puzzle in this is so left field that, I don't know, it just didn't work for us at all. But it's the Arabian Nights theme. I kind of like that, so it did have theming to it. But man, is it just not fun and just stupid ass puzzles. So the Scheherazade's Last Tale is a 3 out of 10. My number 19 is one that came in the second set, I believe, and that one is called Mystery Adventures, and it is the Nautilus's Traps. This is also a medium difficulty one, where you are stuck in a submarine. Now, this one's going to be pretty short. I just absolutely hate these puzzles. They are extremely ridiculous. They rely on terminology that you happen to know, or submarine, terminology or submarine mechanics that would help you. Some of the puzzles are just complete bullshit, but the reason why this isn't, downright at the bottom is because they have a neat mechanic where you have to have oxygen. Because you dove in, you had oxygen, you had scuba gear, and you're stuck in the Nautilus, which is a submarine that I guess went missing, and there's like a monster that's outside, so that's why you can't leave. But the timer, normally these are all 60 minutes. But this one starts off at 20 minutes, and then as you progress further and further, then you find oxygen tanks. And so that's a really cool mechanic. I do like that. It does give a sense of pressure that is thematic to the unlock, to that particular story in that particular game. But that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think. I don't really like any of the puzzles. I don't like any of the hints or the riddles. There's no games in this one. It's the first 2 are very bog standard unlock, like I mentioned that the Island of Dr. Gorse was, so that's here too. But the puzzles are just so tied into the submarine thing that it's like, well, I don't know any of this, so I'm not having fun like trying to figure this out. So that's that one. The oxygen thing is the only thing that brings it up, and that gives it a 4 out of 10. My number 18 came in the, where is it? Right there. The Secret Adventure set, and it is also a medium one, and that is the Tombstone Express. So the Tombstone Express is actually pretty interesting because this one should have been cool. It's so far their only Western, but the problem with it is that you're on a train and you're trying to basically find like I believe like a gangster or some murderer, and there's just too much going on. At one point there are so many cards on the table that you really have no sense of direction. And with a lot of the good ones, there's cards out, but there's like very limited, or you can organize in some way. This one, there's just a bunch of people there. There's just a bunch of cards, a bunch of locations that never... Because as you progress through these games, it tells you to get rid of cards. This one never really did that. You just have so much out, and you're like, I don't know what we're supposed to be doing. We're like, okay, I guess we'll just keep talking to these people and keep showing them every blue card that we have just to see if that works. So they had a few interesting puzzles that I won't necessarily explain, but one of them was kind of tied into the theming of this one that I did like, but most of them I didn't. They're really, all you're doing is kind of just talking to people and then eventually get told who's the robber, who's the bad guy. But other than that, this one just isn't really that fun. And so it's similar to the Nautilus Traps. It's also a 4 out of 10. My number 17 is one that came in the very first box set. It is the Escape Adventures, and that is the Formula. So the Formula is not horrible. You are essentially given an assignment to go in and find a scientist who had created truth serum. That's really, you know how like when Unlock or escape rooms first came out, they just had some bullshit fucking theme. Oh, hey, you're trying to find this thing, and you get locked in, and now you have to find. It's like, okay, really, you're just trying to give us some puzzles, and that's what these feel like. But the problem that I have with this one, I remember not liking it the first time we played it, and then I'm like, you know what, let's give it another shot, and I also didn't like it a second time. And the biggest reason is the very final puzzle is so fucking bullshit that it's frustrating. And the reason why it's frustrating is because of the game mechanics are basically not used. They are theoretically used, however, without giving too much away, you're told how to play the game in the rulebook or in the tutorial, and you're like, okay, that's how this works. But for their final puzzle, you don't do it that way, and that's what bothers me so much about it. Let's see, what else? Because I took notes for all of these. Also, I don't really like the theme. You really just, each room, you're just trying to figure out some way to find a 4-digit code just so you can get to the next room, and that's really all you're doing here. But it works. That's why it's a little higher than these other ones, is that at least it does feel like a standard unlock game, but it gets knocked down so much because of that final puzzle. Because they all, essentially, the earlier, like mainly the first 2 boxes and maybe some of in the first 3, they're all just like, okay, yeah, you have a few, medium challenge puzzles, but then the end is like super difficult, like most of them are. But here, it was just so dumb, and it's very frustrating. And on top of that, the theme is just, it's pasted on. So that is my number 17, the Formula, out of 4 out of 10. My number 16 is one that came out actually a little later, but the reason why it gets dropped so much is because I don't care about the theme. This is the level 3 one in the Heroic Adventures, and that is In Pursuit of the White Rabbit. This one is basically Alice in Wonderland, and it follows Alice in Wonderland pretty close. So I remember that when we were playing it, we asked it was me and my friend, and we asked his wife, because she had read Alice in Wonderland and watched the movie, and we were like, hey, how does this happen? It was like early on in the thing, and she was like, oh, well, if like, I mean, I guess minor spoilers for this one, but it was like, I think she ate the cookie and got big, and then she had to drink something to get really small, but we couldn't remember in which order that was, and that's pretty much how it worked in this. So pretty much, it's a level 3. It's a level 3, and that should be the hardest one, but it's not, because if you know anything about Alice in Wonderland, you can follow it pretty well and figure it out. The problem is, I don't like Alice in Wonderland, so it's not a challenging unlock. It's set in a theme that I don't like, and it follows pretty much the story, so if you don't really like the story, you're not going to like the puzzles, you're not going to like the theme, and you're not going to like the story, so it gets knocked down to a 4 out of 10. But the way I've ranked the ones that had the same ranking, like all the 4s, it was the best one of the 4s. So that's kind of how I kind of rank these. My number 15 was one that was set in the where is it? Right there, in the Mystery Adventures one. And this is the easiest one of that box set, and that's the House on the Hill. This is your bog standard haunted house, and this one is average. It's not bad. I gave it a 5 out of 10. The puzzles were pretty fun. They were pretty thematic. But, I mean, some of them either were like really easy or just weirdly difficult. But at the same time, like, I didn't hate it, but I didn't like super enjoy it. And like some of them are just gonna get knocked down because others are just so much better. And here, like I said, 5 out of 10, it's an average one. It was in the second box set. And it feels like an authentic haunted house. And in a setting with these unlock games, that works. So, I mean, like that's pretty much it. I remember going through this one a while back, and I was like, man, I do not remember anything about it. Then we did it again, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's kind of what this is. All right, yeah, 5 out of 10. So that's really it. House on the Hill. My number 14 is one that they also kind of did something similar to In Pursuit of the White Rabbit. This one is, what's the actual name of it? It is right there. In the Secret Adventures, The Adventures of Oz. And this is also a level 3 difficulty, but it's not if you know anything about The Wizard of Oz. The reason why this one is higher than In Pursuit of the White Rabbit is because I like The Wizard of Oz a little bit better. This one is a 5 out of 10 as well. And boy, it is pretty much The Wizard of Oz. So if you've seen the movie, you will pretty much be able to go right through this. So it falls under the same problems that the Alice in Wonderland one did. Is that if you don't know anything about it, it's going to be hard. If you do, it'll be easy. And, I mean, it could have easily been, and for it to take up the level 3 one just kind of bugs me a little bit, like the level 3, because those should be really difficult and really awesome. But some people might really like it because they love Wizard of Oz or they love Alice in Wonderland. I don't really care about either, but out of the two, I like Adventures of Oz, or The Wizard of Oz a little bit more. So that's why it's here. I mean, it's a 5 out of 10 unlock, and I mean, like out of all the puzzles, like the puzzles for both of those really are going to be hinged on how much you know the story. So we were able to breeze through this one with no difficulty because we both knew the story. So that's why it is my number 14, and once again, 5 out of 10. My number 13. Oh, what's this one actually called? I know what I wrote it down as, but it is in the Heroic Adventures, and it is Sherlock Holmes, The Scarlet Thread of Murder. This is the medium difficulty one in that box set, and this one is also not bad. The problem that is with this one is that it's not really that memorable. Like, I had to actually go, because I didn't buy all the box sets, just really the first 3. And this one came out at a kind of like, I think this was like the 5th set that came out. 1, 2, 3, yep, 5th set. But the problem with this one is that it is a Sherlock Holmes case. So if you have played the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, or the Detective Modern Crime board game, or Chronicles of Crime, or any of those are going to be drastically better than this one. And this one tries to be like that. The reason why it's a little higher than all the other ones I've mentioned so far is because it does a pretty good job at following those kinds of detective cases. So you do get a feel of that kind of like murder mystery, who did what in an unlock setting with puzzles. And I will say that how you deduce who it is and the final puzzle to figure out who it is actually pretty cool. I did enjoy that, and when playing it, I was like, yeah, this is actually pretty good, because it did feel like the consulting detective case. But at the same time, those are just so vastly superior that this one, I'm just like, oh man, what was that one about? The Scarlet Murder, I don't remember anything about that. And so it ends up being a 5 out of 10 because it's an average one, and I would just say, well, there are better ones out there that give you a better unlock feel, give you better puzzles. And if you want to feel like a detective, go play Consulting Detective. If you really want to be in that Sherlock Holmes setting. If you don't care about the setting, then Consulting Detective, Detective Modern Crime board game, or Chronicles of Crime, and you will have a much better time. So that's where I'm at for that one. That is my number 13. My number 12 came out in the Exotic Adventures set. And it was the easiest one out of the three, The Night of the Boogeyman. This one is just adorable. Like, this one I thoroughly enjoy because it has such a kid, like a kick-ass kid feel. With the fact that there are, four, like this one took a mechanic where there are 4 different boogeymen, and each of them are hiding in this kid's bedroom. And when each of them pop up, there's like a new rule. One of them, spoiler, it's the first one though, where you can't talk to each other. But you can still share the cards, so that's fine. And you're taking a lot of all of the puzzles are engrossed in this nightmare kids theme. And the very final puzzle I actually enjoy quite a bit. It feels really cool in terms of the setting. So I honestly don't really have a whole lot of problems with this one, except what's weird is both times I've done this, we've missed one card that basically just derails the whole thing. And it's just like, man, how'd we do that the first time? I get it. I get a little bit in the first time, but the second time we did it again, but it was a different card, and it's like, I'm lost. I don't even know where we're... And so eventually you have to go back. But I just thought that was a little weird. So, Night of the Boogeyman gets a 6 out of 10 for me. My number 11 is the No Side Show. And in these unlock boxes, there are 3 things that come out that are centered around the No Side story. And he's like some clown or whatever that is trying to... He's basically like... Was it Gru from Despicable Me? He has that mindset where he wants to blow up the moon or something like that. And this is actually the last one in that trilogy. Not that out of the 3 that have came out so far. This one is also pretty good. It's the easiest one in that box set. And it's centered around a circus. And what's cool about this one is that you're given like a pamphlet, really. And as you... And there are different acts that are happening in the circus. And so each of those acts have their own puzzle and their own, that you have to solve. And whenever you're done, you have like the program card that you slide into the actual program. And then once you have all of them, then that's some puzzles too. And I really enjoyed this one a lot. Some of them were very interesting. Some of the puzzles were very left field that it's like, I wouldn't have thought of that. But this one was pretty good. I liked it a lot, actually. But as you can very much tell, I haven't mentioned any of the other no sides. So this one is just where it's at. I mean, it's a 6 out of 10, just like the Night of the Boogeyman. But yeah, I mean, it's there. So that's the No Side Show. My number 10. So finally getting into the top 10 for these unlocked games. My number 10 is the second No Side one, the No Side Story. And this one came out in the... which one was that? Which box set is that? It is right there. In the Secret Adventures. Once again, this is the easiest one out of the whole thing. And this one is really good because it's a continuation of the very first one that No Side came in. So it's the second one out of the 3. And it had a fantastic last puzzle and a very, very quirky theme. The No Side Show does the same thing with the quirky theme, but it's not as whimsical. It's not as bubbly, even though you never felt like you were the guy going against Megamind or the guy going against Gru in the No Side story or the No Side Show, because you had to figure out all of his side acts or all the different acts. Here you are going against No Side as well in a sequel to the very first one. And it continues that theming very, very well. Like I said, it's a whimsical theme where it just makes me laugh. And that's the thing, is I haven't mentioned laughing in any of these, but these are genuinely funny and also genuinely adorable. So for it to be a really good sequel to the very first one, and this is the only one where there's actually kind of a continuation of story out of all the boxes, I enjoy that quite a bit. So the No Side Story gets a 7 out of 10. And my number 9 is the very first No Side Story called Squeak and Sausage. This came out in the very first set called Escape Adventures. And this is actually a level 2 difficulty. So it's interesting because that one and then is the hardest one out of the 3, because No Side Show and No Side Story are both level 1s. But I also think that's really more of a misprint. The very first box set has a level 2, a level 2, and a level 3. Since then, they've done level 1s, 2s, and 3. So I really think that, honestly, Formula should be level 2, Squeak and Sausage should be 1, and then the Island of Dr. Gore should be thrown away. But Squeak and Sausage, the reason why I like it more than the other two is because it was the very first one that, out of the trilogy. I have a soft spot for things that begin a story. This one has excellent puzzles as well. Out of the very first box set, I think it's the best one. It has more clever puzzles that are manageable to solve. You don't have to stretch to be like, wow, that doesn't really make any sense. It also has a use of some of the, like, there's in the app, there's a machine where that's where like the app integration comes in more than just hitting code and then putting in a 4-digit code. So with the Squeak and Sausage one, without trying to give too much away, it has that same vibe that the No Side Story has. It has a very Megamind or Gru or Despicable Me kind of feeling where there's a big bad guy who's doing eccentric, villainous stuff and you have to go in and stop them. Has a great unlock feel. And puzzles that are actually a joy to solve. So that's why it is my number 9. And that one gets a 7 out of 10 as well. My number 8 is one that came out in the very in the latest one. It is the Epic Adventures, and that one is the 7th screening. This one, oh hey, that's funny. Oh, I actually just made a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's very funny. I didn't even recognize that. The 7th screening is when I first played it, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, but the more I thought about it, the more I was like, that was actually pretty cool. In this one, you are escaping a horror movie, but you are also a viewer of the movie. So this is where my friend Steven didn't really like it, because some of the puzzles you had to solve with being in the mindset of being in the movie, and some of the puzzles you had to solve with being in the mindset of you're watching the movie. But I think in this one, they did a very, very cool thematic atmosphere. Minor spoiler, but it comes out pretty early, and that's to solve a lot of these puzzles. Some of them are red cards, and some of them are blue cards, and to figure out how to use them, you have to add the two numbers together. Like if there's a door that's red and you have a key that's blue, and the cards, they're both labeled 10, you find card 20, you use the key on the door. That's how you solve things in here. But in this one, the movie is set in a time where there was no color, so all the cards are in black and white, so you don't know what goes with what. I thought this was extremely thematic. I enjoyed it quite a bit. They used the cards in a unique way that haven't been done before. They also, since it's a horror movie, they have a lot of horror movie references that just kind of elevated it for me. So I enjoyed this one a lot. And they also do something in this one that the Island of Dr. Gore failed to do, and in this one they actually do it correctly. So that's also why I enjoy it quite a bit. This one got a 7 out of 10 for me as well. My number... Oh, and for the record, I'll talk about it in a sec, but my number 7 came out in the... I wish I'd remember all these boxes. Came out in the Exotic Adventures, and this is the Expedition Challenger. This is the hardest one out of those 3. And I remember first playing this one, and actually, hold on. The setting is you are trying to find this girl's husband who had found a location or a piece of the world or another world that actually still has dinosaurs, but he's missing. Him and his crew are missing. You have to go find them. So if you can't tell, the ones that I actually kind of like a lot are the ones where it's not, hey, you're stuck in a room, get out of the room. They're adventures. Hey, you're going out and doing something, but it has the still same feeling. So it is what it is. But here, this one is probably one of the best ones where it definitely didn't feel like an unlock, like escape room. The first part does. There's technically 2 parts to this. The first part is you're solving puzzles. You're trying to figure out where they went. Then once you do that, now it's a survival game. You have to solve puzzles and explore the world that he found using hints, using puzzles and things like that to save the crew. And each time there's actually a day-night cycle, and each night the people that you haven't found lose health. And so if you haven't found them yet or you haven't rescued them yet, then they can actually die. So there was some stakes in this one, and there was a little world on the app that you had to go out and explore. And that one I thought was absolutely fascinating. It said, there's dinosaurs, and you have a pamphlet. You have like his notes, Dr. Challenger's notes, that help you. Okay, well, here's a dinosaur that we saw. So now, okay, what does it say about them in this pamphlet? And just the fact that you have to go out and find all these people, and they're all centered around puzzles, and then there's also puzzles in the game. You have to explore the world. This one's just a blast. And it's not that it's hard. It's not that the puzzles are hard. It's just hard to be efficient with your time and save everyone. Because at the end of every game, you get a score. You get a star rating out of 5. And depending on if you save people or don't save people, that affects your ranking. So I enjoyed this one actually a lot more the second time I went through. And what's cool is whenever I went through these first 3 boxes, it felt like I hadn't gone through them before because I had forgotten all the puzzles. I was like, I don't really remember how we solved this one. So going through it again after a few years, it was a lot of fun. So that was Expedition Challenger. That one also gets a 7 out of 10. My number 6 came in the very latest box as well, which was the Epic Adventures, and it is the Dragon 7 Tests. This one is set in feudal Japan, where there is Master Lee or something. He takes disciples once every 7 years, and you are wanting to join his dojo, but he's like, hey, you have to prove yourself worthy before I even accept you as a student. And this one, the game included essentially its own minigame called the Z King or something like that. And while this one was, the Z King was heavily used in this one, sometimes when they when they issue like a new mechanic and something, they might overuse it. Here, I never felt it was too overused. I thought that the way that they use the Z King each time you do use it was pretty, each time it was different. And while you might think, a minigame inside an unlock game, that might be a little much. It's not at all. But it's set in feudal Japan, so I like that a lot. Some of the puzzles that corresponded to the Z King were very intriguing. I liked that a lot. It used other mechanics from previous unlocks that I also enjoyed quite a bit. And it just basically capitalized on all the failures from the previous ones, because there's a puzzle that was in Scheherazades Tale that was shit, but it's good in this one. There's a puzzle that was in in the, where was it? That's pretty much the one I can think of off the top of my head. But I just enjoy this one actually quite a bit, and I've done this one twice now as well. So that way, I was able to kind of speed run it because I just wanted to have Kat go through all of them and just to enjoy them like we did. But yeah, it just made the minigame so much fun. Oh, Scheherazades Last Tale. That's the puzzle that it took. It actually did that twice. It took two of the puzzles that were in that one, did them in this one, but in a much better way. So, I don't know. I enjoyed how everything was done in this, and I didn't think they overused the King really at all. And they also had some other fun mini games in this that incorporated the app as well as other players that was exciting. I enjoyed it. So that one gets an 8 out of 10 for me. My number 5 came in the... Where is it? Came in the Mystery Adventure, so the second box. And this is the Toneapples Treasure. And this is the hardest one in that box. And this one is a pirate setting. So what's really cool about this one is they incorporated a adventure, kind of like what the most recent ones have been doing, but it was in the earlier setting, so it also had a very heavy unlock feel, but you're not stuck in a room. You're out exploring, and this one, you are trying to find the treasure, and at first you're thrown in jail, and then you eventually obviously get out, and you kind of explore. I really enjoy a lot of the puzzles in this. Almost every puzzle in this, I very much enjoy. And the very final puzzle is so cool, and I believe out of all of the unlock ones, this is the first one and only one, I think, to do a final puzzle like that. And they did it in a way that was actually organic and not, well, because they had to do it, it's only the second box, but they didn't start integrating their app even more until really the Exotic Adventure. So 4 box sets in, they were very much reliant on the cards instead of the app. And so here they did something with the cards that I thought was just exciting and extremely thematic. So while some of the puzzles are very hard, like to think about, you eventually, once you do figure them out, you're just like, oh man, yeah, we did it. Okay, boom, now let's go on to the next, the next location inside this pirate world. Everything is centered around pirates. You actually have to do some investigation. You have to, without giving too much away, you just have to go around and explore and do some really cool puzzle solving in this. So I enjoyed it a lot, especially the second time. And this one gets an 8 out of 10 for me. My number 4 has a different name than what I gave it. It is... came in the Timeless Adventures one, the second newest box set. Arsène Lupin and the Great White Diamond. This one was so much fun. You essentially play like a bunch of kids, like a bunch of orphans. Has like almost like Oliver Twist, Cockney, pickpockets that are running around. And Arsène Lupin is like some rich guy who's trying to find this diamond, this massive diamond, and he hires you as a bunch of kids to, hey, he's leaving puzzles. He's like, hey, are you going to be up to par to be able to find this diamond for me? So the theming I actually really like. You run around London, kind of like in, once again, the Scheherazade's Last Tale. You know how I said all you do is just go from place to place? Well, here, you would go to a place, and then it would be centered around kind of like the Sherlock Holmes field, where you had to do some detective work. You had to do a lot of stuff that's integrated in the app as well, so it's very app-forward. Very machine-heavy, and then you have to solve these puzzles and then go to the next location. Like, you run around London, and then the guy is like there, and he's just like, oh, good job, and then he gives you more stuff to do. But you also have a competition. There's another group of boys that are like, hey, fuck you, we're gonna do it first. So you have like a kid gang rivalry competition to see who can find the diamond first. So I don't know, this one had a combination of some of the older unlock games that, while by themselves weren't that great, when they were added together, at least the theming was, made a very exciting journey that you get to go on. Very clean, very good puzzles that I liked. The final puzzle, though, my friend and I are kind of split. He thinks it's dumb. I liked it. And that's just all I'm going to say about that, because I feel if I give anything else away, it might ruin it for anyone. But I'm just going to say I liked what they did with it. He didn't. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But this one I enjoyed well above the Sherlock Holmes one, and then the Last Tale. This one gets an 8 out of 10. My number 3, 2, and 1 could have been in any order, almost. Obviously they're not, because I had to pick an order, but these 3 were very hard. None of the other ones come close to these 3. These are by far, in my opinion, the best unlock ones that have come out. And my number 3 came in the Heroic Adventures, and it is the easiest one in that box set, and that is called Insert Coin. Insert Coin, you are in a video game. All the cards are 8-bit, and all the mechanics are 8-bit and centered around video game logic. This one is so fucking cool, and it is very app forward. It is very app heavy, where everything you do is in this app. And this was the first time that they basically used your camera to look at the cards, and then you put have the camera pointed at it, and it changes the way the card looks. That was just so mind-blowing to me, because nothing in the other 4 box sets did anything like that. And that is just an awesome piece of technology to have in an unlock game, because even regular escape rooms don't utilize technology that much. Some of them are very lock forward, or maybe some theming, but they're all physical puzzles. And obviously you can't have a lot of physical stuff with these. So it's like, well, the only physical thing you're really using is the app. So how about we just make that as cool as possible? And here they did it. So, I mean, there's video game stuff in here. There's, like I said, video game logic. There's the adventure setting. Honestly, I don't really remember what the overall video game vibe was, like what you were doing. I think you were trying to rescue like a princess or something. But man, it was just so cool. Like I was blown away by it. It almost snuck up to number 2, just because it was the first one to do something like that and actually succeed, in my opinion. But I couldn't quite do it. But yeah, this one is just a blast to play. And I mean, I think the other reason it's also at number 3 and not at number 2 is because it is easy. And I think they did that on purpose, because if they were introducing a new mechanic with that type of app technology and they made it hard, that kind of would have been a little overwhelming. So because it is easy, you get to just enjoy everything that is happening. So that's my number 3, Insert Coin. Gets a 9 out of 10. My number 2 came in the latest box set in the Epic Adventures, and that is Mission number 7. And here's why I was saying that's interesting. So I've mentioned there are 7 boxes that have came out. So there's 21 total. In the 7th box, which is the Epic Adventures, all of the names have a 7 in them. There's the 7th Screening, the Dragon 7 Test, and then Mission number 7. So I was like, I didn't make that connection before just now. Mission number 7 is so fucking cool. And this one, you are playing a group of agents, so secret agents or CIA agents, that are trying to find a mole in the CIA. And there's actually 2 parts to this. The first part, like a literal 2 parts, there's like 2 separate decks. The first part is trying to identify the mole. So it feels very much like an unlock. You're going into rooms, you're trying to gather evidence. You have a file, a mission file that has all the people. I think there might actually be 6 or 7 people that you can choose from. And as you're finding clues, you're able to, okay, well, we found a clue to this one, boom, it can't possibly be this person. And as you continue moving forward, eventually you get to, there's only one person left. And then you integrate the app a lot more. This one also does the same thing that Insert Coin does, where, but you have 4 different characters. So that have their own kind of abilities and uses throughout in the story. So for example, you come upon a computer station. Well, one of the characters is like a hacker. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to use him on that, and it works. But there's one girl, she doesn't really do anything. She just has gadgets. And one of the gadgets is essentially the phone, and she can do the same thing that what the Insert Coin does, where you look at some stuff and it'll change the way it looks by looking through your camera. So You have the 4 agents. You have the puzzle solving that is really, really good. I think the puzzles are so much fun. They're very thematic and very integrated. And some of them are pretty difficult that we had to get some hints for because there was like, yeah, I don't really know how to do this. And then once you see it, you're like, oh. So there's the first part to that. Then there's the second part, once you do find out who it is, that you're going to try and stop him from doing what he's doing. And that one was... I don't want to give anything away, but whenever we were playing and we figured out, what to do, the way that they took that puzzle and stuff like that was just so mind-blowing that it was awesome. It was a breath of fresh air after doing 7 boxes of these. That there was really no puzzle in there that was like a stretch or anything, but you got to feel important because you had your own character. It had a really cool overarching story where you had the best of both worlds. You had your adventure, you had your deduction, and you had your unlock feel. And the puzzles were great. This one was so good. Honestly, yeah. Insert coin, mission number 7, and then my number 1 are phenomenal. And mission number 7 almost made number 1 if it wasn't for the theming, honestly, of number 1. But mission number 7 gets a 9 out of 10 as well. And if you've played all 7 boxes and you've been keeping track, then you know what my number 1 is. It came in the second to last set, the Timeless Adventures. It is the hardest one in that box, and that is Lost in the Time Warp. This one was just... so fucking cool, so thematic, so just wow! I can't believe they did something like this and succeeded. In this one, you are essentially jumping back and forth in time to like one of your buddies gets like lost because he's like, hey, I made a time machine, let's go in it, and you make a decision, he's gone, and then you're trying to basically bring him back. And just the way that you jump from his past to the present to the future while also making not necessarily choices, but through the puzzle making or the puzzle solving, that changes happen. The butterfly effect, where, okay, you go in the past, you step on the butterfly, it causes, drastic things where there's, Armageddon at the end, or an apocalyptic future because of that. It causes a chain reaction of events. Well, that's essentially what you're doing here, because you make changes in the past, but you solve these puzzles in the past to be able to affect the present, and then you have to solve puzzles in the present to be able to affect the future, and then trying to get your friend back. Because you jump back, like, each time the past... It's not... You jump in the past, and then you do jump back to the present, but then you go forward. Like, just the fact that you're going back and forth in different time periods, and they've made thematic puzzles that correspond to that, was just so mind-blowing. And I remember... Because a lot of these... can honestly be made you can make or break a good unlock by the final puzzle, because that's what everyone's really going to remember. They're not going to remember all the tiny little stuff that happened at the beginning where you added 2 cards together, but the final one is really what's going to hook you and be like, that was awesome. And this one, it's a tough one between which one was better between this one and the mission number 7, but I think this one edges it out so slightly just because of how cool it was, With the mission number 7, I have seen it done before in the exit games, so that's kind of where it's like, oh, okay, but it was so cool to have it done in the unlock games. However, in the mission, or in the Lost in the Time Warp, there was nothing that was like that before, and we were just like, that is so fucking cool. So, I don't know. I thought that it was really awesome the way that you just go from past, present to the future in this guy's life. To be able to get him back was just so cool. All the puzzles were just gangbusters. It's by far the best one. Because I remember ranking these, or thinking about ranking these, and I'm like, Lost in the Time Warp is probably going to be the best one if I had to guess. And I had to give it to him. It is a 9 out of 10, but I probably should give it a 10 out of 10. I think I am actually going to. I think it is the only pretty much perfect one out of all the unlocks so far. So it is the only 10 out of 10. Mission number 7 and Insert Coin get 9s. This one gets a 10. And that's it. Those are my thoughts. Those are my rankings on all 21 unlocked games. This basically gets me caught up. And so as more, I'm hoping more unlock boxes come out, because I am just loving these with Space Cowboy. I hope they just focus on this instead of time stories. So that gets me caught up on ranking and reviewing all of the unlock games that have come out. So as more come out, I'll do reviews over those. But that's it, everyone. Let me know what your favorite unlock games are in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.